I'm Adam Long, and you're listening to the Thundercast, charged up insights for people in tech. I'm here in the studio with our CEO, Chris McGowan. And Chris, I've got a message for you. Happy birthday to ThunderLabs. 2 years in. It was 30th of July 2021 when we registered ThunderLabs. And now here we are 2 years into the business. How does it feel?
Terrifying.
Say more on that.
I think if you didn't care about something, then you wouldn't be terrified about making sure that you perpetuate it. And if you didn't care about something, you wouldn't be terrified if it went wrong and you let down people and all the rest of it. So I think I say it jokingly, but I mean it. The business has become it was important then, but it's become more important today because it's not just us now. There's like 30.
That's a lot of mouths to feed and careers to nurture and clients to help win.
Yeah, lots of mastery and autonomy and purpose to create, right?
There's a line that I love that when it gets shared around the entrepreneurial community, which is, you know, people look at ThunderLabs from the outside and they go, wow, look at you guys. You've been in the news. You've got thousands of followers. You've got this podcast, the people you're meeting, the people on your team. It's just amazing. And to entrepreneurs, it's a bit like sitting on top of a lion. Mm-hmm. And from the outside, people go, wow, look at that person. They're sitting on top of a lion. How brave. And then the person sitting on the lion is going, holy hell, how do I stop this lion from eating me? How did I get on this lion? What do I do? That's business, huh?
Do you feel like you're sitting on top of a lion?
Every day.
Do you? I mean, without using that lion analogy, do you have, how do you feel about it now we're 2 years in? And I would sing happy birthday to you as well, but you've got a much better voice than me, so I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to do that, but happy birthday.
It's pretty exciting to be 2 years in. That's about 18 months longer than my first business lasted, and that feels like an achievement. And actually, it's longer than most businesses last. The stats are very few make it to 2 years, let alone 5 and 10. Very few businesses make it beyond one person, let alone to have the 35 we've got in the network today. And a lot of that I attribute to having two business partners who have also run businesses before. And all the early mistakes I remember making in my first couple of businesses is just out of the way. Hitting the ground running, it's great. But funnily, no less scary.
Yeah. Do you think you have avoided all the same mistakes?
Unlike my first business, I didn't spend the first few weeks worrying about printing a business card with CEO on it and giving it out to as many people as possible, as in friends, my mum.
Yeah.
I actually went and spoke to clients and won some work.
That's kind of important. I wonder though sometimes with the nature of people that the mistakes follow them, you know, into business and into relationships. It's about maybe who you cushion yourself with around you so they don't amplify the mistakes that you're going to make anyway. Even when I think about your business card thing there, not that you've done that this time, but you have a predisposition for beautiful design and content and strategic thinking. And if I think about us, that's complemented by, and that's not to say they aren't action orientated, but it's complemented by my high action orientation and my seeming tunnel vision when it comes to, the more strategic line of thought. And so even without our third amigo here, I'm already thinking of that complementary nature.
That's definitely been the case. I think as a strategic thinker, love to keep on thinking. Probably a bit longer than you would like, and that's actually your superpower. They're getting into action. And I've got to say, 3 business partners is a bit of a magic number.
You think so?
I really do. It gets rid of... I've been in a situation with 2 main business partners, and then one is right and one is wrong. When there's 3, you can disagree, but it's so much more constructive and easy to bring the minority around to the majority, or just be kind when the majority changes their mind to join the minority. It's just easier to do with people.
Is that one of your key, if you reflect on what the biggest thing is you've learned over the past 2 years, what do you think it is?
That's definitely in there with the positive experiences. So when I start the next business a few years down the track, it'll be with...
You're not allowed. This is it.
Well, you might be there. So it'll be with 2 other people,
interesting.
Both of whom have run businesses before.
Interesting.
Definitely. But I do have to say as well, it's we've had a pretty phenomenal fast start in the first 2 years.
Yeah.
But it does remind me of the Isaac Newton quote. He said, if I've seen further than other people, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, no one is successful on their own. They're successful because of all the people around you who have supported, encouraged, taken action. There's I think his exact words were, there's no such thing as a self-made man. Someone has said, Arnold, you're a self-made man. He's like, no, doesn't exist, because it is the coming together of so many people. And if I reflect on the last 2 years, who some of those people are, like there's some of our earliest team members who took a gamble. Let's face it, it's a gamble going into a new business. The vision was clear, the intent to bring everyone on the journey and make everyone at ThunderLabs an owner of the business, that was clear. But it's still always a gamble, and they took that risk, and I'm greatly appreciative of all those people. The clients who took us on, even when they'd worked with us before in many cases, still a new business, still a new team, still a new arrangement. And that's what's made all this possible.
What would you do differently? Different business partners.
Yeah, better looking business partners.
How dare you?
Hey, it's a podcast for a reason, right?
Yeah.
What stood out for you over the first 2 years?
I think, striking that fine balance between continual experimentation and continuous execution is interesting. I wouldn't change any of the experiments we've had over the years, but it's surprising to me what causes the experiment to fail. And so,
You mean what causes the experiment to be a learning experience?
yeah, let's call it learning. It's surprising how many learning experiences I've had. I think, I notice, rather than reflecting on anybody else, I think keeping in a state of mind of like there's a lot to be done. It's terrifying, there's learning experiences everywhere, and just keeping the mind fortified and willful, and one foot in front of the other. I think the ability to do that, one foot in front of the other, and be and relentless. And I'm surprised, how many people lean in, but I'm also surprised how many people lean out, whether external, internal, whatever. It's just humans in general. And, there's a war with one's own ego. That it's like, why are they leaning out? Why don't they see what I see? Why don't they hear my authenticity or the intent? And, back to being strong-willed in those moments is a challenge. And I think if I was talking to people founding businesses like this, I would be asking them about their adversity quotient, their AQ. But back to one of the podcasts I did with Gus the other day, like how can you turn the shitstorm into something that you go, that's a learning experience? And even if you do have, I don't mean in a delusional way, but in a way that is genuinely reflective and prompts action, because that's happening every day. Every day there is something that is a surprise I didn't see coming. And I actually thought with you and Andrew, I wouldn't have any of those things. And I'm not saying you guys are responsible, but I genuinely thought with two charged up industry titans and the three of us at the helm, we'd cover that. But that's just a fantasy. And many of those problems that have been with me in previous businesses because of me actually appear. And when you think you have partners that are going to cover your strengths, cover your weaknesses, they actually don't. Sometimes to an extent, but not enough to make it all okay and easy. There is still there's still a rounding out of one's own skill set that's required. Like, I can't just depend on you guys for the stuff that, needs to get done. Doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that I've got to do it too. So there's no roles and responsibilities. You're all on. Are we building a company? Yes. Okay. Well, you all do all of it, please. There's no one able to say that's my job and that's your job. That's just not how it works. So I think anybody who thinks you found a business like this with different skill sets, and you've got the marketeer, the maker, and the money maker. The money, the maker, the marketeer was like the three M's.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have that.
Did the three of them walk into a pub? Is that how this goes?
They form a really big sandpaper company. Actually, there's the punchline. So I think that, I'm reflective on that. So whether it's a standout or a lesson, I don't know. But I think when we were walking up the stairs yesterday, I said, man, we are bloody lucky, and lucky is broken down to hard work, opportunity, back to the people and the customers. Time and market is the extra thing that I've added into that formula for luck. I think we're lucky, but we're working hard on those things, and I don't think there's any way around it. There's no other path.
Absolutely.
I'm glad. One other thing, I'm glad we're a services business. So many people say, "Oh, you can't make money in services; it's really hard," and it is. But I'm really glad, because if the arse fell out of a market tomorrow, I don't mind. I mean, I'd want to move our people into the market so we can keep them, but we're not, subjectively tied to a product. Product can flow out of our services capability. I can see us at some point having a product, but that can flow out of the hardware, software, AI people that we've got now. But we can be patient about it. We're not dependent on making a product to make money. We can make money now in services and then evolve to a product. And man, I can see that on the horizon, and that's really exciting to me. It's all there for the taking.
Absolutely.
There's a lot.
So let's go right back to the start. Our birthday was last week. Mm-hmm. The founding was 2 years earlier. Do you remember how we met, Chris? All those hours before we registered the business.
We were sitting on the sofa in the startup hub, weren't we, in Wynyard? Isn't that the first time we met?
So for those who don't know, Chris and I each knew Andrew Walker, our third co-founder, but hadn't actually met each other until Andrew introduced us, saying the three of us are going into business together. But it says a lot about Andrew that two others will go, yep, all right. We'll take Andrew's word on that one. And yeah, talk about luck. I feel like that was lucky. That was probably the least due diligence I've ever done on a business partner, and the luckiest I've ever gotten on a business partner. Amazing how that goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I wonder, do you have that? I'm sure you have an amusing analogy or a parable, metaphor. I don't know what the right word is about. You said the right door is the one that opens.
Yeah, that's it. You push on the door. You try something. But if that doesn't open, another door does. That was the right door, as it turns out.
Yeah, take that one. Yeah. I mean, I think about this. We could have been in business a long time ago, because the first time was 10 years ago. Actually, for me, 2015, when I left SMS. And Alex Matthews introduced me to Andrew and said, "Oh, you guys should do something." And I thought, I'll go and do something else. And so, because you were involved in that last business in 3 weeks as well, right? Were you involved in 2015 or after?
I was a consultant to that business. I'd love to tell the story about how I met Andrew.
Yeah. Why don't you tell the story about how you met Andrew, please, Adam?
It was 2012. I was desperate. Mm-hmm. I was really, really desperate. My first business turned out to be a terrible business. 3D printing was not a good route to go down. And after losing my life savings, maxing out some credit cards, and standing in the queue in Centrelink for a long time, I got desperate to do something. I thought, right, all my life I wanted to be a CEO. I got there, had the business card to prove it, and I sucked at being a CEO. And so I was reflecting what would have made the difference. How might I have been successful? I said, well, I didn't really understand marketing and sales, and if I could do that, then maybe the business would have been successful. I need to go and get a job in marketing and build up some skills here. But of course, no one would hire someone with a background like mine, industrial design, a year with the government and a 3D printing business. Like, why would that guy apply for marketing at Vodafone? And I got so desperate that I went to an event where a marketing agency was doing live problem solving, game show style. They called it Stump the Strategist. And they take a problem from the audience and have a 9-minute countdown timer to build a strategy. This is the creation of Ashton Bishop, who I learned an incredible amount from. And I'm like, right, this is genius. This is what I need to learn. I need to work for these people. So when they said, right, who's got the next marketing challenge? I put up my hand. I jumped up on stage. I got down on one knee like I was begging, like I was proposing to them and said, you guys don't know me, but I know you and we should be together. Can I have a job, please? And they had like 200 people in the audience. So I had a few beers like, woo, yeah, give him a job, give him a job. That's how I got into marketing strategy consulting. No resume, no qualifications, no background, just the willingness to get down on my knees. And in the audience that night was Andrew Walker. So years before we went into business, he was there watching me at my lowest point, getting down on my knees, begging, putting all embarrassment aside just to get the result I needed at the time.
It is actually a big thing to do, because even desperate, I'm not saying I wouldn't want to do that, but I'm not sure I could for fear, So it's interesting that the hallmark of your ability, it was still there then as it is now. You still do the equivalent, but now you're up on stage giving jobs as opposed to,
It's a nice turnaround.
Yeah, dude, right. Yeah.
The night before.
But the behaviour is still the same in terms of what you do is what I want to say. You put it out there. You're good at that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the night before, I'd watched a movie with Matt Damon in it called We Bought a Zoo. And one of the themes, the repeated motifs, is he talks about sometimes all it takes for magic to happen is 30 seconds of insane courage. And so that's what was running through my head when I said to my mate, hold my beer, I'm going to ask for a job. And nice closed circle. I had the opportunity to meet Matt Damon a couple of years ago. Of course, he wears the socks from the sock company as a founder of a charity supported by the sock company. I got to tell him that story, which was nice. And
how did he respond?
He said he's a big fan of my work. And I thought, that's really nice. Matt Damon is a fan.
Good. Because Matt Damon nearly lost his career after the talented Mr. Ripley, was it? He had a 2 or 3 bad movies on the trot before he came back to the Bourne Identity, right, which relaunched his career. And so, even for people as famous as Matt Damon, they have their moments. And I wonder if doesn't matter how much you are in the limelight today, people who are there have often had a trial at some point.
It's a really good point, because growth isn't actually linear, isn't it? Even in plants, they go through seasons. And I used to have on the wall of an office a big sign that says the secret to life is to keep breathing. And I love that, because it's sometimes there's times in life when you're breathing in and things are building energy and momentum, and sometimes you just breathe out and sit still, and that's what it takes to keep going. You can't do one all the time. And when I think about some of the incredible people who've come and joined the ThunderLabs team, some of our clients, some of them we've met at the end of what's been a rough period for them, and it's been that confidence and faith in them saying, you've been breathing out for a while, come breathe in with us, let's build some momentum again. And people thrive with that trust, because no one's stuck in any particular way forever.
That's an interesting thing about, they've been breathing out for a while. So you say, come with us and breathe in. Why is it you think that some people don't want to do that, even when you give them the chance to do so? Like, what's that about? Why don't people see an ecosystem for what it is? It can be something. Actually, it doesn't have to be work. It can be girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, customers, employees. I think we're building something special, and I hope I'm objective in thinking that. Why don't you think people see it through the same lens? Are we not marketing it enough? Is it your fault?
Look, as managing director of the company, everything's my fault. Hey, same with you. You're the CEO. Everything's your fault too. Look, I think, why do people not see what we're doing? I'd frame it more in the positive. What's everyone actually doing? And we're all just stumbling through life looking for happiness the best way we can. And whatever people do in the next moment has nothing to do with rationality or the right or wrong thing to do, because there is no right or wrong thing to do. It's, we open a door. For some people, it's the right door and they walk through. For others, it's not. There's another door they need to push on, or another open door for them to walk through. And that's just life.
Yeah, I understand at a high level there's no such thing as the right or the wrong thing to do. But my judgmental level says that sometimes there is the wrong thing to do, and it surprises me people's blindness to them doing that. It's a tricky one.
Well, I want to share one of my favorite books, which I mentioned to you once, is called Algorithms to Live By. And it's about how some of the processes that underpin computer science can apply to real life. Now, in computer science, you're ultimately always trying to solve a problem. And one of the problems they need to solve is the optimal stop problem, which is, if you imagine you're driving towards a concert, do you take the first blank car spot you see, or do you try and go a bit closer? There might be one, but it's going to be more crowded. When do you actually stop? So that's just one esoteric example. But the optimal strategy for all sorts of complex problems never gets you the right answer 100% of the time. So in the optimal stop problem, the answer is 37%. You go 37% of the way you're willing to go and then take the next one. But 37% of the time, you've missed the best outcome. And that is the best you can get, is that 63% accuracy. So you can do the right thing at the right time in the right way, the right strategy and the right people, and still sometimes not get the result. And I actually find that really, really encouraging and calming in a sense. Right strategy, right execution. You won't always get the right result, but you know what? The odds are in your favor. And as you said, like, luck comes from time in market and activity. When the odds are in your favor, keep taking the bet.
So 63% of the time, that's when you should make a decision, so at the 63% mark, because that's the optimal moment for making the decision. You can get it 63% right.
We could talk about it for hours and go into it, and I'd happily do a podcast on that actually. I think the main message to remember is that the mathematically optimal thing to do will never get you the right result all the time.
What a cheerful thought.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see, if you work with Adam and I, birthday or not, you can be assured of lots of interesting debates, and Adam's amazing recall for almost everything he's ever read or seen, which seems to be the opposite of my recall. So yes, excellent.
And that's the joy of partnership.
Yes, agreed.
Well, Chris, it's been incredible chatting to you today.
You too.
Happy birthday once again.
Yes, you too.